Justin Trudeau's political career is unraveling faster than anyone could have predicted. Once celebrated as a fresh, forward-thinking leader, Trudeau now finds himself at the center of a political collapse that is shaking Canada to its core. His poll numbers are in free fall, his party is in disarray, and Canadians are making it clear they've had enough. But how did it come to this? How did the man who once inspired hope and optimism become a symbol of frustration and failure? Today, we're breaking it all down. Before we continue, I'd like to ask for a small favor. If you're enjoying this content, please consider giving the video a like and subscribing to the channel. Fun fact, over 98% of viewers watch without subscribing. Your support makes a big difference and helps us keep creating content like this. Thanks so much for considering it. Now let's get back to the video.
Today we saw the next episode of the chaotic clown show that is costing.
The latest polling numbers are nothing short of devastating for Trudeau and the Liberal Party. Once a dominant force in Canadian politics, the Liberals are now trailing in fourth place. Yes, fourth place, behind the Conservatives, the Bloc Québécois, and even the NDP in some projections. This isn't just a bad week or a rough patch. This is a full-blown collapse, and it's sending shockwaves through the political landscape. Think about it. A party that once held a majority government, that once swept provinces like Ontario and Quebec, is now struggling to stay relevant. And it's not just about losing votes, it's about losing trust. Canadians are looking at Trudeau and his government and asking, what have you done for us lately? And the answer, for many, is not enough. Let's start with Atlantic Canada, where the Liberals' collapse is perhaps the most striking. Newfoundland and Labrador, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, these were once Liberal strongholds. But now the Conservatives are surging, turning the map blue in places that Trudeau could once count on without a second thought.
The left-hand side is the outcome of the 2021 election with the new borders modeled, right? Not on the old borders, the new borders. Then on the right, you can see where we project right now with, at least in the last week. You know, check out Newfoundland and Labrador, looking pretty.
Atlantic Canada has always been a bellwether for national trends. When the Liberals lose here, it's often a sign of trouble across the country. And this time, the message is clear. Canadians are done with Trudeau's empty promises and flashy rhetoric. They want real leadership, and they're not finding it in the Liberal Party. Even in PEI, the Conservatives are making gains, challenging the Liberals in ridings that were once considered untouchable. And in New Brunswick and Nova Scotia, the red tide is receding faster than Trudeau can deliver another Sunny Ways speech.
Into PEI, you know, Malpac probably a pickup for the Conservatives, but the Conservatives challenging in the other two ridings in PEI, and not a lot of red in New Brunswick.
This isn't just a political shift, it's a complete rejection of Trudeau's leadership and policies. Voters are sending a clear message. They're tired of being taken for granted. But the collapse doesn't stop there. Quebec, a province that has long been a battleground, is also seeing a dramatic shift. The Conservatives are expanding beyond their traditional strongholds in the greater Quebec City area, putting pressure on Liberal safe zones like Sherbrooke and Compton-Stanstead, and it's not just the Conservatives. The Bloc Québécois is gaining ground as well, capitalizing on Trudeau's unpopularity and the growing frustration among Quebecers.
Well, you know, the interesting thing in Quebec, same kind of thing. You can see the last election with the new boundaries on the left. Now the seat projections. Look, if you look on the far right, Quebec, the greater Quebec City area has always been good for the Conservatives, but looks like they're starting to branch out.
Quebec has always been critical to Trudeau's electoral strategy. Losing ground here isn't just a setback, it's a disaster. The Liberals are being squeezed from all sides, and Trudeau's once reliable coalition is crumbling under the weight of his own missteps. Now let's talk about Ontario, the province that has been the backbone of Liberal victories for decades. The Greater Toronto area, once a sea of red, is now turning blue. Mississauga, Brampton, even parts of downtown Toronto are becoming battlegrounds. And it's not just the suburbs. Long-standing Liberal ridings like Kingston and the Islands are now too close to call. This is uncharted territory for the Liberals, and it's a sign of just how far they've fallen.
Nick, in the GTA, traditionally there's been a lot of liberal strongholds in Toronto. The suburbs, different story. What are you noticing? What are you noticing there?
Well, the thing is basically it's a setback for the Liberals. It doesn't matter where you cut it. You can see, Michael, Brampton, Mississauga is key battleground with the Conservatives actually mounting a major challenge to the Liberals in those ridings.
Ontario voters are fed up. Rising costs, housing crises, inflation. These are the issues that matter to Canadians. And Trudeau's government has failed to deliver solutions. Instead, they've offered gimmicks and PR stunts, and voters are seeing right through it.
And it's time for Uncle Justin to go home. He's drunk. Here's a cab. It's time to go.
Trudeau's approval ratings have hit rock bottom. Only 19% of Canadians want him to stay on as Prime Minister. Let that sink in. This isn't just a slip in popularity, it's a complete collapse of confidence, and it's not hard to see why. Canadians are tired of the flashy talk, the broken promises, and the lack of real action. They're tired of a leader who seems more interested in his social media presence than in solving the problems facing everyday Canadians. One of Trudeau's most controversial moves in recent years was his alliance with Jagmeet Singh's NDP. The so-called Supply and Confidence Agreement was meant to stabilize his government and keep him in power. But instead of strengthening his position, it's become a political liability. Canadians are increasingly frustrated with what they see as a government propped up by backroom deals rather than democratic support. The NDP, once a party of principle, is now seen as little more than a crutch for Trudeau's failing leadership. This alliance has also alienated voters on both sides. Progressive voters who once supported the NDP are furious that Singh has tied his party to Trudeau's sinking ship. Meanwhile, centrist Liberals are abandoning the party, frustrated by what they see as a government that's veered too far left without delivering results. The result? A fractured base, with voters fleeing to the Conservatives, the Bloc, and even smaller parties like the Greens. And let's not forget the policy failures that have come out of this alliance. From the botched rollout of dental care to the lack of progress on affordable housing, the promises made under this agreement have fallen flat. Canadians were told this partnership would deliver results. Instead, they've gotten more of the same: empty rhetoric, rising costs, and a government that seems more focused on staying in power than solving real problems. While Canadians are struggling to make ends meet, Trudeau is busy making TikTok videos and baking cinnamon rolls.
Well, do you want to do some baking? Let's do it. I always felt we don't brush enough butter onto things. Violet, do you know how we cut the cinnamon rolls?
Strings.
With strings, actually.
These tone-deaf antics have become a symbol of his leadership. Out of touch, unserious, and completely disconnected from the realities facing Canadians. It's no wonder voters are turning to Pierre Poilievre, who offers a sharp contrast with his focused, no-nonsense approach. Trudeau's problems aren't just at home. His international reputation, once a source of pride for many Canadians, has taken a nosedive. Remember when Trudeau was seen as a global progressive icon, rubbing shoulders with world leaders and delivering speeches about climate change and human rights? Those days are long gone. Today, Trudeau is increasingly seen as a lightweight on the world stage, a leader who talks a big game but fails to deliver. Even on issues where Trudeau once claimed the moral high ground, like climate change, his government's record is underwhelming. Despite all the talk about being a global leader in green energy, Canada remains one of the largest per capita emitters of greenhouse gases in the world. And then there's the economy. Trudeau's financial mismanagement has pushed Canada deeper into debt than ever before. The government's debt is projected to hit $6.2 trillion by 2030, with $70 billion in annual interest payments alone. That's money that could be used to improve healthcare, build infrastructure, or invest in education. Instead, it's being wasted on interest payments, leaving Canadians to bear the burden of Trudeau's reckless spending. Outro Trudeau's desperation is showing. GST rebates, gimmicks, and last-ditch efforts to win back voters are falling flat. Canadians aren't buying it, and neither are the polls. The message is clear. Trudeau is out of moves, out of time, and out of luck. Is this the end of the Trudeau era? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.